Okay, cool. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Visual Studio 2010 Tips and Tricks. I hope everybody's having a good afternoon and still awake. Well done, you managed to walk all the way from your last session into this session. Just out of interest, how many people just stayed sat exactly where they were? Yeah, that's what I thought might have happened. Okay, what I'm going to do today is just go through a few tips and tricks. Wrong keyboard, that would help. And these are just taken from Sarah Ford's blog. And also Zane's doing a whole new series of tips and tricks, mainly around writing extensions. So there are a few URLs there that I'll publish afterwards. If anybody wants to go and check them out, these take all these tips along with a lot of other ones. So literally what we'll do is we'll just dive into some of these tips and tricks. I hope nobody really wants to see any PowerPoint slides, because generally that's really pointless. What we'll do is we'll just bring up Visual Studio and I'll show you everything. So, tip number one comes down to incremental search. So how many people have been in a file and brought up the find dialog box to find something else within that file? Yeah? Okay, cool. So stop doing that. Do Control I. Okay, if you hit Control I, what you get, oh, there we go, is you get incremental search suddenly starts showing. And I can just start typing, and it will immediately start highlighting the thing that matches that search. So, and then if I type F3, if F-lock is on, I can actually use F3 to go through. Yeah. Or not, as it happens to happen. So, F3. No. Okay, cool. So that's demo god number one. There we go. It's working again. Yay. So that's just me hitting F3. And you can use Shift F3 to go backwards. Okay, cool. So that's tip number one. Wow, that was easy. Okay, so there's a new feature within Visual Studio 2010. Everybody knows what Shift does, yeah? When you press Shift and you go right or left, it just starts doing kind of highlighting. So, yeah, I'm highlighting cursor. Try using Alt instead and go, no, not like that. Instead of using Shift, go Alt, and you can actually use, there we go. That's what I wanted to do. Right, so I just held down Alt and used the mouse, and it selected both lines as a box or a column. Okay, so that's pretty cool. But the real power of this is say, those two lines both say cursor. Really what I want them to say is console. Okay, so that's pretty cool. You can type on both lines at once. Nice and easy. Okay, how many people have done this? Right, I need to copy this line, so I'm going to do Control-C, and then I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to accidentally hit Control-C. Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, no, now I've got an empty line. I'm sure we've all been there before. Okay, so there's a quick tip to get rid of this feature, and if I bring up my trusty environment, you can go into text editor, and you can go into all languages, and you can uncheck this checkbox. It says apply cut or copy commands to blank lines. Okay? And if I go OK, and I do exactly the same thing again, and I go Control-C, and then accidentally hit Control-C again. You've got to trust me that I'm hitting Control-C. And then go Control-V, it still pastes what I had before. Okay? So that should stop you doing some random stuff. However, if you happen to have copied the wrong thing, you can actually go backwards within the clipboard ring. Control-Shift-V will just go backwards through all the things that you've had within your past couple of copies. And this is a ring. So once you get to the end, it will go back to the first one, so on and so on. Okay? I actually don't know off the top of my head. There you go. Somebody thinks it's 20, so that'll do. We'll take 20. Yay for 20. Okay, how many people here used to kind of live in the DOS days where they could type in nice little commands into a DOS window? Okay, wouldn't it be cool if Visual Studio allowed you to type in commands? Imagine my surprise when it told me, you can do that. Okay, so say I want to start a new instance. It's in the debug menu. Start. It's amazing. It's called debug.start. Now, to get there, what I did was type control/. So if I empty this is called the command line. It's amazing. Control slash, it adds in that angle arrow. Okay, that means that this is in command mode now. And I can type in literally anything that's in Visual Studio, and as long as it's available within the current context, it will work. So you can do things like set as startup project, or randomly blow away all my files. I'm not quite sure. No, I'm not sure where that command is, to be honest. But I can do, I can bring up little windows, so I can bring up the call stack window, for example. Apart from I'm not debugging at the moment, so it's not in context. So it's not available, is what it says. So before I forget, I'll just start that little program there, so that I can show you that. There we go. That's better. Oh, yes. Debug.callstack is not available. Okay, cool. So that is driving from the keyboard, as I like to call it. Okay, how many people have been somewhere within their project and really, really wanted to copy out the path that they're currently in? So they want to say, hey, I want to copy the path of this file. And then they generally do something. I don't know, they go open with Windows Explorer, and then they go, right, that's there, so I'm going to type in, and then I'm going to, oh, well, that's just crazy talk. So instead, go edit, and, where's it gone? Oh, no, there is a way. Right, forget that one. I'm not quite sure why that's not showing up, but no, I was in the wrong menu, I think. On my notes, it says file, copy full path, and I've done this. Okay, sorry? Thank you. There. I knew it was there somewhere. My notes are going a bit haywire. Sorry. Yeah, I should have been a bit more specific with myself. So right-click on the tab, not, yeah, okay, file, copy full path. That really doesn't help me very much. Okay, cool. So obviously, you might type in something. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this one up here. And you know how Visual Studio likes to kind of prompt you with this little thing, and then you have to find it really hard with your mouse and go using system. So hopefully everybody knows this one by now. Control full stop will bring up that menu for you. Okay, that's just a little nugget for those of you who haven't been there before. Okay, how many people, right, how many people have text that they like to copy and paste? How many copy and paste developers have we got in here? Yeah, okay, cool. Did you know that you can actually just copy text to the toolbox? Yeah, and you can use that again and again and again. Okay, nice and quick. That's a quick way to save some snippets for you. But talking about snippets, how many people use snippets? Okay, cool. So you know that tab is the way to complete snippets. Okay, so I just typed in 4 and it got up the snippet, and I just typed in tab. And I hope everybody knows that if I've highlighted something and I do Control X, no, oh, that's the wrong one, Control K, I Control X, I can do an insert snippet as well, or that's the worst one to do. I can surround something. So I can do, so that was Control K, Control S. Okay? And that will surround everything with a for loop, for example. Okay? Nice and easy. Right, okay. I like to create little throwaway projects all the time. I might have a brainwave idea that console outing 1 to 1 million will be the best program ever in my entire life. Really simple program. Yeah, okay, Visual Studio, thank you very much. Okay, So File, New Project, for example. And you're in this project window, and you've got to type in where it wants to save. Because obviously Visual Studio needs to know where to save stuff. So rather than doing that every time, because I do this all the time, and I'd end up with somewhere that's littered with all my little throwaway projects that I don't want to know about. Instead, if you go to Options, and you go to Projects and Solutions, and then in here, you go to General, which is also the default one that comes up, you can actually uncheck Save New Projects when created. Okay? And click on OK. You all still with me? And go New Project. And because this is a web application, it's asking me where it is, because it's obviously going to serve it. But if I wasn't in a web application, it no longer asks me where I want to save this. Okay? It will just reside it in a temporary place. So if I call this Owen is cool, yeah, it won't necessarily save that anywhere. Instead, it will just kind of have it as a temporary project, and then when I close it down, I can discard it. Okay? It's a nice little tip if you end up creating little spike projects just to see if code works or the other like. Okay, changing the text editor font size. You probably want me to do this as tip number 1, seeing as I've had the text editor up for so long. Sorry about that. But in Visual Studio 2010, this really isn't a tip that much. It's kind of the easiest thing you can possibly do. And that's just to use a scroll mouse. So just hold down Control and use the scroll wheel. And now, because this is WPF, we can just zoom in. Ooh. Of course, you can use the old kind of font size, which is in Text Editor, I believe. Somewhere in here. That's tabs, but yes. Oh, there we go. Thanks. Yeah. You can just use fonts and colors if you prefer something. Yeah. See, that's why I didn't click on it, because it's now going to spin my machine for a while. Da-di-da-da-di-da. Okay, so that's fonts and colors. But the best way to zoom in Visual Studio 2010 is to hold down Control and use the scroll mouse. Okay, so what's next? So you might have noticed that when I brought up Visual Studio, it obviously showed this nice, wonderful MSDN-style start page. That does actually slow down your projects. Not as much as it does in 2008, but it does still in 2010. So one of the first things that you might want to do when you're configuring your box is to stop it happening. So in the environment, there's this startup option, and you can tell it to do whatever you want to do. And you can actually say, don't do anything, or create a new project every time you start up Visual Studio. That might get a bit onerous after a time. Or open project, or etc., etc. So you can actually stop it showing that start page. And that's got a few more options than it used to have, which was kind of just a checkbox saying show start page. Also, you can actually remove projects from this list finally. Okay, you couldn't really do that very easily before, so I ended up with big lists of stuff that I was never ever going to load again. Instead, I can just right-click and remove from list. Yeah, that's nice and easy. Okay, so if I'm in here and I open up another tab, another tab, another tab, oh, that's the same one, but you notice that it opens up to the left, okay? Some of you might prefer the tabs to go to the right, and you can do that. You can do that one as well. It's amazing how many kind of little things that they've put in for you. If I can bring up my menu. Okay, so in Environment and in Documents, you can say Insert Documents to the right of existing tabs instead of to the left. So some people ask for that one. It kind of helps if you're reading kind of in chronological order about what you've done. So always tracking back kind of goes to the left. It kind of makes sense if you're reading from the left to the right. So it's one of the things that I tend to turn on. Okay, how many people have kind of wanted to get into the CS proj of a file? So there might be some MS Build stuff in there that they want to edit. So you have to kind of load it up in a text editor and say, hey, I want to just create some XML, because obviously you can't open it up in Visual Studio because, hey, It doesn't let you. But now you can. You can just say unload project, and yeah, I'll save what I've done. And then you can edit the CS proj. Okay, so as long as it's unloaded, you can actually edit the core project file. But I'll just reload that project in so I can carry on using it. Okay, so how many people, I keep on saying how many people like you're going to answer me, but I can but hope. Yay, thanks. Okay, so a random number of people will generally like to kind of set a breakpoint here. Say this is a loop, for example. So rather than breakpoint there, what I'll do is I'll do a for each, and I'll say, oh, I didn't, see, I'm lazy sometimes and I forget about the fact that I should do tab tab. Okay. Sorry, and then I'm just going to put in like 2 integers into a collection. So that'll go 1, 2. But imagine you wanted to just output what the for was doing right here. Okay? A lot of people would kind of set up a breakpoint and kind of stop every time and go, no, it's 1. No, it's 2. Now it's 3. Now it's 4. Yeah, okay? Keep going, keep going, keep going. So really what you wanted to do was create kind of a debug kind of output. So instead of kind of inserting a breakpoint, it's much nicer to right-click in here and get no feedback at all. So insert trace point. Okay, so a trace point is like a breakpoint, but instead of breaking, it will just trace. Wow, they really did come up with a crazy name. So console dot write line, for example, say item, and let's use my control dot to do nothing because there we go. That'll do. So say I wanted to output what this was coming back with. I can insert my trace point, and then it comes up with some funky helper dialog to allow you to kind of set up a message that prints out every time this trace point gets hit. This will just come out in your debug log, essentially. So in the console window that comes up at the bottom when you're debugging. So instead of breaking your code and going, I got there, okay, I got there, okay, I got there, it'll just kind of just output stuff to the console log. Okay, so that's quite a useful little thing to use. Trace points, remember them. Okay, so exceptions. So a lot of the time when Visual Studio throws an exception, it will come up with a really nice, funky kind of, hey, I got an exception, would you like to know more details about it? You can possibly have a debug log here, or a stack trace over here. Yeah, so that's called the exception assistant. And it can actually get in the way occasionally. You can have a kind of exception that you really want to flow through, and you don't really care about having that exception assistant. You can turn it off. So in that tools menu, I should just bring tools up and leave it there. But a lot of these things are in tools. So in tools and options, and under debugging, thank you, and general, then you can uncheck the enable exception assistant, which is just there. It's just there. There. Okay, just in case you couldn't read. So this will stop that friendly exception dialog and allow kind of a system underlying exceptions to be thrown without being swamped by Visual Studio. Okay, now this is kind of my favorite new feature within Visual Studio 2010. So I'm kind of a verbose method name writer. Is that a nice way of putting myself? So if I do system.console, and I've got, say, a very long method name like background color, instead of having to write down background color before IntelliSense kind of know what I'm talking about, I can do BC, so that's camel casing. so the two capital letters can be put in. I could also just pick a substring of what I want. So you can see it's kind of filtering down to just those things that contain color. So it's no longer just searching from the start of a method name. Another thing that's new within 2010 is kind of symbol highlighting. So if I can go back to this one down here, let's using system, that's fine. So if I hover over this long enough, you can see, I hope, that all the consoles have been slightly highlighted with a gray background. Yeah, so it's picked up all of those symbols and all of the things around that. That's not just for kind of fun. That's actually to visual cue that you can do something about this. What it means is you can actually navigate between them. Okay, with Control, Shift, and the arrow keys, you can actually move up and down to those symbols, and just by highlighting the symbol that you're currently on. Okay? Now, I'm a test-driven developer, and I don't like IntelliSense particularly picking what my method names are, because sometimes I'm writing code like owl likes to hoot, and there's nothing called hoot. And IntelliSense, so say I was making a new method on console, console.something that doesn't exist, and I'll accidentally hit tab, and it will go, dear, I've just replaced your code with something. So if, like me, you like to make up method names willy-nilly, you can use Control-Alt-Spacebar to go into suggestion mode. So rather than completion mode, this is what's called suggestion mode. And now if I bring up IntelliSense, you can see it's a slightly different interface. And I can go my new method, and it'll just allow that without completing it. So you won't get the accidental completion that happens in completion mode. Okay, how many people know what the Navigate to window is? Okay, cool. So this is quite a new, not quite a nifty feature. And if I do just Control and then comma, I get a nice Navigate to window. And this will search amongst my entire project for, say, method names or symbols. So if I do load names, it will actually find a method called load names, and I can go there. And it will take me to the load names method, for example. So this is quite a nice way to get around your project, a bit easier than find and replace. Instead, you go navigate to, and it will actually look at your proper kind of compiled code to find classes and methods that are called stuff that matches. Okay, I'm in a region here. You can tell I've got a region because I've got a nice little minus sign. Okay, I like using this zoom in. Yeah. Okay, so there's my minus sign, and I want to collapse this region. Sorry, I've got to squint. I've not got very... no, okay, so instead I'm going to go Control-M, Control-M. Okay, so Control-M will expand or collapse regions. Nice and easy. Control-M, Control-M. Both of them stand for mother. Help me, mother. Okay, so, you know Visual Studio 2010 has great multi-monitor support. I can actually just start dragging windows around. I don't have a multi-monitor in front of me, but this could go on another monitor. So that's quite cool. But I can also control drag to get, if I want to put it back on the bar, just control double click will put it back onto the bar. And control drag will take it out of the bar very easily for you. Okay? So control double click to get it back. Sometimes you might be working in a language that's white space sensitive, or you might want to go and tell off developers for using tabs instead of spaces, or spaces instead of tabs. But there's no real easy way of showing white space. You can't really see it there very easily. But it is there. It's hidden in advanced features, because this is the most advanced feature developers could possibly want. So in advanced features, there's a view white space, which will actually show you that, yes, I use spaces, not tabs. Not that this is my code, but hey. Okay, so I might have copied and pasted something into a text file, and it's gone really skew-if, and really, it shouldn't have been done like that at all. So this is horrible. I don't like it. So everybody knows the route of going edit, advanced, format document? Yeah? But notice that there's a keyboard command for that. So you should learn Control-K, Control-D, which will format everything but link very, very well. Yeah, I shouldn't have edited the link statement to show that one off, should I? Okay, I've shown you that one. Okay, text snippets. How many people use text snippets within Visual Studio? Ooh. Well, maybe it's time to start. So there's new snippets for 2010. There's all these helper snippets that will allow you to kind of grab commonly used code for MVC or HTML, or possibly Visual C#. Who would want to use Visual C#? So kind of I can copy that or use it. And you can use those snippets within kind of pull downs. So you can see that one's called MVC Action. So you can browse those and you can see everything that's available for you. I would suggest spending some time and learning some code snippets. But once you've got those, so they become those snippets that you get, so for and for each and everything else. Those are just code snippets. So you can add more in if you want. And as I said, it was Control-K, Control-S to surround things with it. Okay. How many people have lots and lots of windows open all at the same time within their Visual Studio? They've been working all day, ended up with tons upon tons of files, and they end up going to here and then scrolling down to a bottomless list of major files. So there is a bit of a nicer window in Visual Studio. It's Control-Tab, and it will bring up this kind of navigator window. So active files and active windows, so you can actually start navigating around not just your files, but also the windows that are open, like the call stack or your output window. So Control-Tab and Control-Shift-Tab will start moving around, or Control-Tab will start moving between those files. Yeah, and you can choose the one you want, and then it'll go there. Yes, you have to keep your finger on Control. Sorry. Thank you. Obviously, Kirk's made that mistake before. Okay, so anybody who's working on their own with no other developers around them might not care about this one. But once you've set a breakpoint, you might find that you obviously want to share this breakpoint with somebody else, saying, hey, I set up my debug, or you might possibly want to kind of set up your same debug state at home. You can actually export breakpoints, which is in... Everything goes wrong when I want to do this. It should be in there. In my notes it says it's in there. It's in right click. Wow, that's a good note. Okay, there is a way of exporting. Thank you. Export. Thank you. Right click. That's the best note ever. Okay, cool. Sorry. I'll go and modify my notes for next time. Right-click on the breakpoint, and you can export your breakpoints. Okay, and you can share them around or go and load them in somewhere else. Okay, so there's another little new thing in 2010. This one's pretty funky, actually, and I've probably not got the best project to show it. So I'll just open another project. Let's say this one. So if I've got a method that takes in properties, for example. Ooh, that doesn't like load. Ah, there we go. So say search button click. Wow. Okay, so this is obviously the click handler for a search button. maybe it's better. I'm just trying to find a decent project to use it on. Run query with a numerable of cars. Okay. So say I'm debugging, which I will do, just to show you that you can debug. So I've obviously set a breakpoint here. And I can get up a data tip, yeah? You've all seen this. I can hover over something, and it shows me what it is. There's this little pin at the side. How many people have used this pin? Okay, a couple of you. So that will keep this pin, okay? And it will keep it and show you kind of what was in it at the time that you pinned it. The best thing is, you can add a comment saying, Bob, you broke it. Okay? And that will be saved for prosperity. So Bob will always know that he broke it. And I can see my data tip here by hovering over. You can see that the value from my last run was cars. And I can also export data tips. Well, that's where I was expecting it to be. Bug. Yes, export data tips. You see? Thought I didn't know what I was doing there, did you? Okay. What's my next one? Okay, how many people use Windows 7 at home? Cool, enough of you. Do you all know that you can snap to parts of the window? Might as well go home, they all know everything already. Okay, you're debugging, you want to show your code somewhere. I hope everybody knows Control-Shift-Enter. Control-Shift-Enter? It's on my notes. Oh, what is it with notes going wrong? Shift-Alt-Enter, sorry. There we go, full screen mode. So Shift-Alt-Enter, nice and easy. I think that's most of my suggestions. I'm running out now, sorry. So if anybody else has any tips or tricks that they'd like to show, you're more than welcome to come up and show them. Kirk has some, maybe? Aha, yes, that's a good one to show. Thank you very much. So I've put a breakpoint here, and obviously this isn't going to be very useful if I want to know what C is. It'll just show you what the link query is. Everybody know what link is? Yeah? If not, you should have been to Ivan's talks. I seem to plug Ivan in every single one of my talks. But I can actually insert into the middle of the breakpoint, into the middle of the link statement. So right-clicking and saying insert breakpoint will actually breakpoint in the middle. So when I debug run this up, you can actually see that C actually has a value. Yeah? Another one that some of you might not know, and this is just literally off my list of tips and tricks, is how many people like line numbers and how many people wish that line numbers were still there? Okay, cool. Not enough of you for me to warrant kind of showing you. Okay, cool. But if I go into Tools and Options, if I can keep going into Tools and Options, while I'm here, this has to be the most important window that anybody kind of has to go to. So this has every single command that's possible within Visual Studio. I don't know if you knew that you can actually see everything in here. So I always bind this to a shortcut, and it's called Tools Customize Keyboard. And I always bind it to Control-Shift / because I know that that doesn't kind of interfere with anything else. So it's a good way to bring up that window, but it also shows you all the kind of shortcuts for getting anything else. So if I want, say, export breakpoint, which would be a really useful one to know, then it doesn't appear in the list probably. See, this is where I go off track, and everything just starts to go wrong. Oh yeah, it will be under debug, but it should be export data tips. So it's got no shortcut key, so I couldn't possibly use it from shortcut keys. Oh yeah, breakpoint windows export selected. So that's breakpoints. I can do data tips. I can do anything else. So apart from that, I was showing you how to put line numbers. So tools, options, text editor, and then all languages, and in general, there is line numbers. Hurrah! It was there. It's where my notes told me it was. Okay, cool. So now I've suddenly got these funky line numbers. Using statements. So I might have a horrible amount of using system. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I tend to type capitalized just because I like breaking stuff really easily. I don't know. Let's just keep it a system. So obviously I don't need system. It compiled without using system. Well, seeing as you asked so nicely. So I just added using system here, that one there. But I actually might want to kind of get rid of this. I might want Visual Studio to do it for me. There's this nice organize usings menu shortcut that some of you might not have seen. And you can either remove unused, you can sort the ones that are there, or you can ask it to do both. So let's ask it to do both. You can see system has gone for me. And it would have picked out anything else that wasn't being used as well. So if any of you don't have something like ReSharper or any of those tools, then this is a good one for you. Okay, there is another one. That will only control usings. So if you haven't used anything from those libraries, then it will wipe it out of your using statement. And it will also sort them, obviously not alphabetically, but I was expecting to say, and it will also sort them alphabetically, and then I looked and went, no, it won't. Okay, so. See, he knows, you can see it. Okay, so I might do find result. And, that wasn't. I obviously, okay, so say I wanted to search for this method, and I'll close this window so that we're not cheating anymore. Okay, and I'll do a find in files, which is what I want to do, and I'll find all. Okay, so this find window is pretty naff, really, isn't it? It kind of shows you a lot of information that you don't really need to know, and then finally it shows you what you want. So how many people would prefer this showed a little bit more concise information of all they want? Okay, cool. How many people don't know how to do this already? Oh, so you do. Oh, okay, cool. But for those of you who don't, there's a tool called regedit. Okay, and in here somewhere is a key. Now I'm hoping it's where I thought it was, and where it was when I practiced this. Okay, HKey current users, software, Microsoft, and under Visual Studio. Under 10, there's a new key, which I think has to be a string value, and you call it, oh no, sorry, where am I going? Find, there we go. And one of these is not the one I want. It has lots of syntax that you can use. And I'm just sorry, I've got to scroll my notes. Show me where it is. Ah, yes. String find results format. Find results format. Okay. So we need to create a new one. New string Find results form. Ooh. Okay, cool. And there's lots of things you can use in here. But I'm just going to use $n, which means the name of the file. And I could follow that up with $e, which is the extension of the file. Okay. Now, this is the tricky bit, is whether I've got that right or not. Okay, so I'm going to do a Control F and find all files. And how many people want to bet this isn't going to work before I actually... My money is 50-50 right now, because the demo gods are not with me at all. No. Okay, so there is a reason I think this doesn't work. I think this is only a Visual Studio 2008 thing. Bye, everybody. Okay, cool. So, you might always want to load up the same project. How many people only ever work on one project from kind of dawn to dusk for about kind of a month, 2 months at a time? Yeah, so how many people's time would be saved by every time you open up Visual Studio, it always opens up the same project? Yeah, some people would benefit from that. Tools options. And then you want to go to Projects and Solutions. And Build and Run. And then you can... no, that's completely not where it should be. Thank you. Okay. Last loaded solution. So, all right, this has to be kind of the world's worst demonstration. Yeah. I apologize profusely. Yeah. Really, this is just audience participation. Hopefully everybody's had plenty of Red Bull. Okay, cool. So now, next time, it will load up the same project. Okay, so we have literally been through approximately 37, because I know, I've listed them all, 37 tips today. And that's literally the end of my list. I don't have any more on a piece of paper that I can possibly refer to. So apologies if this has run a bit short. Possibly has. There are lots more on the internet. So I would suggest going to Sarah Ford's blog. She's kind of the queen of showing off tips and tricks. And go there, go and see kind of all the great things you can do with Visual Studio. I've been Owen Evans. Thank you very much for being a very forgiving audience, I guess. And I apologize that we ran out of tips and tricks before the time ran out.